Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting to hit the go live button. I thought because I have it scheduled, it will automatically go live, but I guess it didn't do that this time. So, hey everybody, and welcome to this month's live stream. I am going to obviously I'm here to answer the questions. So if you have questions, throw them in the chat. I apologize. I think it's a little bit disheveled today. I've got a new camera, but I don't have the adapter to plug it into my capture card, so I'm having to use the Canon software, which isn't the best, to pull it off. So to get some weird artifacts, that's probably what's causing that. And then my lights that I built, I have some WLED lights underneath my screens, and I guess the power supply blew up. So I don't have those lights today. So they seem a little bit dark, and that's probably what the problem is. So, I apologize. I'm also down the screen too, so I'm having to kind of shift some windows around to see everything. So again, if you have questions on any of the videos, on any projects you're working on, feel free to throw those in the chat. But if you're just here to watch me and you're asleep, today we're going to be hopefully working on a project using the ESP 8266. This is a project that's actually been on the list for a while. I had one set up a long time ago. It's a sensor that you can put in your freezer or refrigerator. I have a deep freeze in my garage, and I want to be able to tell if that deep freeze decides to stop working. So there's a couple ways of doing this. One, I could be using a power meter and seeing what the power meter is reading off of there, and if that drops to zero, then obviously it's a problem. But if I really want to make sure that I'm super accurate, then I can use a temperature probe. And so a long time ago, I had set one of these up using the MySensors packages. And so I have one of these waterproof, temperature-proof Dallas one-wire sensors. That's what we're going to be using today, these Dallas one-wire sensors. And I also have the chip version here as well. So these are the ones that you can use for ambient temperature, and these are great to use for plugging into a freezer or a deep freezer, something like that, and picking up what the ambient temperature is of that particular device. So, if there's no questions from the chat, then I'll probably just get started on the project. So feel free to interrupt me at any time with questions. If there's something you don't understand, you can just stop me. But I'll keep trucking along, and then if people want to join, they can always watch the replay. So we're going to be powering this whole thing using ESP Home. So if you're not familiar with ESP Home, they've now been recently joined forces with Home Assistant, so the integration is super tight now, which is pretty nice. But basically allows you to take any ESP-based device, so ESP8266 or ESP32, and put those to other uses, multiple uses at the same time. You can use them for any of these different device types you see on here. You can control fans, lights. You can use this in place of WLED if you want to do control LEDs, even though I would recommend using something like WLED because it is better off to do that with. So this allows you to do all sorts of different tasks or different things that you want to do with your ESP devices. This is even when you're using a Tasmota to convert a Tuya device. You can flash it with ESP Home and use that to get your information or get your control of that. Oh, so is my audio not coming through? Maybe that's what. Hold on. No, it's coming through. Just quiet. Huh. That's weird. better? You know, looping. I don't know what those spots that open there. So bear with me if you're still on the stream. Sorry, I'm trying to get the audio figured out why it's so quiet. I've got my Scarlett cranked up almost all the way, but I'm not getting really any feedback through there. So if you are on, if you can let me know if it sounds decent or if it sounds terrible, I can switch over to a different microphone. Sorry, I'm just going to turn the gain up a little bit here. See if that helps at all. Okay, maybe that works. All right. I don't know what's going on. The microphone's right against my face. It's the same mic I use for all my video recordings, so it's very strange. Anyway, back to where I was. So you can see there's a ton of different things that we can use ESP Home for. But specifically today, we're going to be using it for temperature. So they actually have a built-in setup for the Dallas sensors. Now the cool thing about these one-wire Dallas sensors is you literally only need one data wire for as many sensors as you want. I think there's a theoretical limit, but you can put all sorts of different devices in a chain and then be able to chain those together and only have to use one pin to connect them to your ESP. So it allows you to save, if you want to chain a bunch of devices together, you can then just have the one pin setting on the ESP and then keep your other inputs open for other things. So now, so the Dallas sensor requires a 4.7 kilo ohm resistor, which I took some of these from work, in order to pull up the power or pull up the data. So what you really need for this particular project is going to be, you'll need an ESP either 32 or 8266, like this one here. Actually, I can switch over to that view here. So ESP32, or this is ESP8266. The Dallas sensors, which come, like I said, in kind of two flavors. The chip, almost like a transistor, and then this more waterproof version. So, yeah, you need that, and of course you're going to need a power supply, so I'm just going to power it off my computer here. Now, the really neat thing about ESP Home is that you can set it up to communicate right with the ESP. Once you do the initial flash, you put all the Wi-Fi information on there. You don't have to touch it again. You can stick it in a remote location. As long as it's got Wi-Fi signal, you can communicate with it, and then it'll be able to pull up your information, and you can do an over-the-air flash, which is kind of cool. That's something that I used to not be able to do with the kind of Arduinos and stuff. You can flash these over the air. So if you decide to make a change to it, you want to modify some setting on there, you can do that all from Home Assistant, and be able to do that all within the software, which is pretty neat. So first thing, let me bring up my diagram so you can see what the circuit's going to look like when we're done with it. So this is what the circuit's going to look like when we're done. This is an example that I had set up before my refrigerator in my garage died, which would have been nice to have this set up beforehand. Today I'm only going to be using the deep freeze and the ambient sensors. As you can see here, you can utilize a single pin on the ESP to drive all of these, and then each of the devices have their own unique address that we'll discover at a later step. That will then allow us to pull the data from them and say, okay, that's this device, and then you can test them and figure out which device is the right one, give them a name, assign that all in ESP Home, and then that'll automatically show up in Home Assistant and essentially just be off and running. So if we look at my circuit here. Again, I apologize, this is just my webcam, it's not the best in the world. We'll want to take the Dallas sensor. So the way it works is on the waterproof ones like this, you have the 3 wires, obviously red for power, black for ground, and then the data is the pin in the middle. With the D-style package, it's usually, you have to hold it this direction with the notch. And then I believe this one, this is the power, and this is the ground, but I'm going to pull that up real quick to confirm that. So yeah, so it's, the ground is pin 1, so facing like this, with the notch facing away from me. This left side is the, that's the ground, and the right side is the VTD, is the power. So we will, oh shoot, sorry. There's the diagram right there. So this is the pinout of this particular package. So I'm just going to quickly put these in a line here. Turn that. Get that hotspot off of that. It's terrible. Oof. All right. Now connecting these things to a breadboard is a little bit tricky. Usually you'd like to have a terminal block like one of these to secure it down, but I couldn't find my 3-prong terminal block, so I'm just going to shove them in the board. Alright, so let me... So if we look at the diagram here, we just need to tie the power down to the center pin. So and if those are just joining us, feel free to ask questions. I'm just running along with this right now because there's nobody asking questions. So if you have a question about a video or a project, let me know. If not, I'll just keep rambling on about this. So I'm going to put this between these two. So if you can see here, I've got the 3 cables from the waterproof one. I've got the external one, and then I've got the resistor in place. Now I'm going to quickly put a wire to 3 volts, which actually I've got a rail right here that already has 3 volts on it, so I can put one of these out. And one thing you want to be aware of is that the Dallas sensors are similar looking to transistors, and I have put transistors in place of a Dallas sensor before, and it ends up just overheating. I've actually burned my finger with one of those put in incorrectly, so just be aware. If you do have a bunch of electronics parts, don't confuse those with other transistors because it won't work. And then I think I already have the ground in place too, don't I? Yeah. So I've got the ground on the rail as well. sheet there, makes this a little bit easier. And then we'll connect the data. So my image here, we've got GPIO 5, so D1, which is right there. All right. So now we've got the data, power, and ground all connected like the diagram. So I'll go ahead and switch back over to the ESP website, and we'll go through the setup process. Give me 1 second. Let me bring up my home system here. Alright, so this is my live home assistant instance. I'm going to go down here to supervisor, and then I'm going to bring up ESP Home. Now this is an add-on you can install that allows you to control all your ESP devices, ESP Home devices from Home Assistant. You can just find it in the standard add-on store. Open Web UI. And you see I've already got a number of these that are already online and functioning. I've created the code right here for the garage freezer. Now, what I've done here is I've taken the base code that's created, so let me show you that real quick. So if you create a new device in ESP Home, it's going to take you through, it's going to ask you the name, it's going to ask you your Wi-Fi SSID and password, all that good stuff. Go through the setup process, identify your ESP. It'll even tell you if you have, if you've connected the device to your serial port, to your USB port. It'll actually tell you which device you have plugged in and set all the configuration parameters for that. So I've already done that. So if I go into the edit mode here, I'll give it the name of Garage Freezer. It's selected the platform of the ESP8266. I have gone ahead and set the logger level to debug. This is required for Dallas sensors because if you don't do that, then you can't pick up the addresses that we need to check here in the next step. We've activated the Home Assistant API. We've set a password for the OTA, so this is the password so the device and the ESP client can talk to each other. And if they don't identify that, then it won't let you do an over-the-air update. Then your Wi-Fi information, username or password, the fallback AP. So in the case that the ESP cannot connect to the Wi-Fi, it will kick on its own access point and allow you to connect to it and leave that password in there just in case. So that's all the basics that come with an ESP home device. But below that, we've got the first data point we need, which is the Dallas sensor, and the pin is GPIO 5. So that's the one we've selected on the board. Obviously, you could use any other ones. But this is the minimum requirement to get started with ESP Home. And once you kick this in place, then you'll be able to connect it and read those addresses. So here real quick, I'm going to flip this off of my screen so you don't see my Wi-Fi passwords, and then I'll get this connected and flip back here in 1 second. So. Switch over to Chrome because it looks like you cannot do this in Firefox, which Firefox is usually the one that I stream and record with. You have to do this in Chrome. So I'm going to go ahead and get back into, again, I'm just hiding my passwords right now, so bear with me. I'm going to go ahead and attach the ESP to my computer. And then just to make sure everything looks correct, I'm going to take it through the setup process by giving a fake password. Click on this. Next. So it's going to connect and tell me what type of... Oh. That's a power connector. Oops. There we go. Okay. So that's the correct one. Okay, COM port 7. There it is. Connect. Okay. So real quick, let me blank out. The install button at the bottom, and it gives me different options. If this was I could actually plug this device physically into my Home Assistant instance, which is Raspberry Pi in the basement. It would let me do that, and then it would try to attempt to tell it to flash off there. You can do it wirelessly if you already have the device OTA'd, and then you're plugged into the computers, which is what we're going to do right now. Select that one and connect. Oh, I think I gotta have it in flash mode. So hold down the flash button and hit reset. When I power it up, I think that's what I've got to do to make it ready to flash. Oops. Okay, so I'll run the flash button. Plug in this boot. Let me close. I'm gonna switch out of the browser and try again. Bear with me, please. This is exciting stuff, watching somebody try to troubleshoot their own computer, but So if this inevitably does fail, you can always install the manual flasher as well, which is available from the ESP Home here. So I'm just going to grab that just in case, just to back up. So typically what it allows you to do is similar to the video I did on the ESP Presence, where you can flash it inside of the web browser. You can do that with ESP Home, but for some reason mine's not working. I think they say it's on the initial ones. You may have problems with it. So to manually flash it, we need to go back to my Home Assistant instance and go to Install, Manually Download, and it's going to go ahead and compile the YAML file into the source and make it ready to download and install manually. So that's what we're going to do real quick. So I got the bin file. Browse. Crash user bin. Access is denied. There we go. So I did have to hold down the button and unplug and plug the USB port. So that does happen in the future. All you have to do is down this flash button here on the ESP. The ESP32s, I don't think you have to do this with, but the 8266, you have to hold this button down to flash the initial bootloader. So I did that. Now it seems to work. So now it's detecting my Wi-Fi signal here, making sure it can connect, and then it would tell me if it's going to fall back to the other Wi-Fi that's the access point, so I can connect to it. So hopefully it doesn't do that if I get the password correct. And again, if you have questions on something, just feel free to ask. Just me talking the whole time. I didn't like that connecting to the Wi-Fi network. So there we go. So now, since it couldn't connect, it's setting the fallback AP, which I'm not seeing showing up yet. There. So let me switch the phone here. I apologize, this is upside down here. You can see the garage freezer fallback hotspot. You can click on that, and then now I need to type the password in. If I scroll back up here, it displays it in plain text right here. Oops, sorry, should have shown you. So if we scroll up here to the top, right there. So it shows me the AP password right here. So now my cell phone is connecting to the network, which it says it can't connect. Spread it up. Okay, it just keeps restarting. All right, so let me jump back over here and I will Wi-Fi network, recompile it, and re-download it. So let me edit this. 301. Okay. it's going to recompile it again. Okay, so we're going to save it over the existing one. We'll open back up the, close it. Alright, so now I'm going to reopen the ESP flasher. Select my COM port again. And hit browse. GarageWizard 1, flash. This was already in flashing mode, it didn't make me reset it. So this will take just a few seconds. Hopefully this will actually connect to my main Wi-Fi access points. So at my house I have 2 access points from Google, the Google Fiber 2G access points, then I have 3 of my Ubiquiti UniFi. So alright, yep, there we go. So it looks like it's connected to my home assistant. And if we look over here, we can see it's online. So the device is connected to the network. If I click logs, since I do have my debug logs turned on, I'm able to see all the debug logs from there. Even if I were to unplug this now and connect it straight to power, I'd have that capability. So there we go. Now if you look closely here, you'll see these 2 sensors that it's found, indicating that the 2 sensors that I got plugged in are working perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab these 2 devices, and then I've already got some code made up earlier that has my example on here. So I'll actually bring my Notion over here so you guys can see it. Same, everything at the top is exactly the same. I'm not going to change any of that. Leave the Dallas in there, go down to pin, GPIO5. But here the difference is I have to paste in these addresses. So right now I don't know which one of these addresses is which because I'm seeing them all at the same time. Oops. So in the next step I'll be able to tell if I got the correct one or not. So I'm going to copy that one, and I've called it there. So I've got these 2 devices on here, and I need to get rid of this one because this is an extra. So we see here, I've got the sensor, Platform Dallas, the address that I found in the system, and I gave it a name. This name is what's going to populate in Home Assistant. Same thing with the other ones. So these could be backwards. I don't know for sure. The deep freeze is the temperature probe I want. That's the waterproof one. And the garage ambience, obviously the other one. So we'll see if I got those right. If not, I need to float them in the code. So I'm going to pop back over here. Go ahead and click stop. And then I need to grab this last line here. And let me blank out here. And I'm going to tag that at the end of the code. I took a screenshot of it. I just added under the Dallas pin, did 1 enter. Under sensor, those additional those added values. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit save, close, just have that in the screen anyway. And we're going to hit install. And then I should be able to now, since I've already flashed this once and I don't have to worry about flashing the actual bootloader again, I can click wirelessly. And now it's going to flash it all over the air. So again, if you make a mistake on something, or if you want to add an additional piece of hardware, you don't have to carry it all the way back to your desktop. You can just do it right there on the device itself. Now I still have it set up to be in debug mode, so I'm going to get all that extra information, but you want to make sure you turn debug mode off before you do your final flash, because you don't want to have all that existing requirements sitting on top of your device. You want to be dragging down all your extra RAM usage. It's just giving me a warning about it can't connect to the background. So showing it says it's not responding because it's trying to find that IP address. But I can also, since it's still connected to my local computer, I can go to logs and click on there. And it's going to give me the output from the actual serial port instead of over the air. Let me reset it and see if that. So I can't find this device. Strange, that worked before. That's not working again. It looks correct. So this time I'm going to switch over and video flasher, just in case something's wrong with the MTA. Now I may have to boot it back into flash mode. Yeah. So let me hold down the flash button, and we'll unplug and plug in the USB port. Okay. Back in flash. Oh, yeah, sorry. I tried boosting the audio, and I mean, I'm like, the microphone's right here, and for some reason, it's not coming across. I've been having all kinds of problems with my audio input device, because I was trying to record a video last night, and I fought with it for an hour, so I don't know if it's going out or what it happens to be, but let me see if I can't crank the gain up a little more. Is that any better? Let's see. Yeah, it's so strange. There it goes. Okay, now at least now I'm in the yellow on the Scarlett, so hopefully that helps. Thanks for pointing that out, Richard. Okay, so now if we look here, since we're dealing with the debug, we've got two different temperatures. We've got 26.2 degrees Celsius, for the deep freeze temperature, which is this probe here, and I'm going to try to be careful not to unplug it. So the cool trick about these is if you wanted to test which one's which, you can just hold your hand over the sensors like this. So I've got one sensor in my hand. Let me switch to the log view to see if I can get a better view of this. So you can hold the sensor in your hand, warm one sensor up, and that's how you can tell which one's which. So let me switch back here. Since we are getting output now, let me hit stop. Configuration, integrations. Then the ESP home you'll install from the add integration, but of course I already got that done. So I'm going to go to here. And on my list. No. Add integration, right? Oh, it's right there. So if you see here, Garage Freezer shows up now. I hit configure. It'll take me through the process to go ahead and set up that device, the Garage Freezer. In Home Assistant, and then it'll add the sensors in, and then I can go ahead and track those in the UI. Thank you, Richard. Good. I'm glad that fixed it. Yeah, I had to crank it up almost all the way. It was crazy. Okay. So if I click here on Garage Freezer, go to one device, you'll see I've got two different devices here. One with an ambient temperature of 79. So whenever you see a ambient temperature of like 180 degrees, that can mean really only a couple of things. One, that means you've got it wired incorrectly. Or two, that you've got one of the ports is unplugged. In this case, I've got one plugged. So if you notice there, I put my finger on that sensor. I wish I had this in picture-in-picture. I apologize. So I've got my finger on the one sensor. Let's see if I can heat it up. The next time it does a refresh, I think this will flag as high. This will start going up. And if that's the case, then I know I've got the sensor name swapped, and I need to swap them back. So I think it refreshes about every minute, but I seem to be having network problems, which is why I couldn't connect to the first Wi-Fi access point. So my ESP device is actually it's not showing connected for a few cycles, and then it reconnects. So if you notice a long delay here, I don't think this is present on the other ones. I have ESP Home set up on like some 2D devices. Oh, see, there we go. Now it's at 90 degrees, so that's definitely the correct one. I've got my finger on there. So I need to go back in the code and swap them. But I'm using the ESP on, like, I've got some TAS-modified smart plugs, and I'm able to pull, within every couple seconds, pull that power sensor on there. So I know it refreshes more often than that. I just think because my network is having problems right now, there's a bit of a delay there. And if you see the garage ambient temperature is unknown, if I switch to the top down, because this power cable keeps coming unplugged, because I've got it on this board. So it's my fault for having not a good rig here, but this obviously isn't my permanent setup. I'm going to probably put this on a little perf board and stick it in an enclosure and stick it behind my freezer outside. So I'll probably post pictures of it to social media when I'm done with it. Again, it's not something that's supposed to look pretty. It's something that's supposed to be functional. So now if you look, the ambient temperature sensor is now correct. It's now showing 90 degrees because it was on my leg, so that's why it was working. So everything seems to be working fine. I just need to swap the two sensors around in the code and turn off debug. So I'll do that real quick, and then the project's done. So X out of that. Make it a supervisor. Oh, sorry, I don't know what screen sharing. So we'll go back into ESP Home, open up Web UI, and then I'm going to edit this. But see, you see this shows as online, offline, online, offline. It's probably because of that. So let me turn off debug, which I just got to remove the level, and swap the two sensors around. And I'll show you a screenshot of when I'm finished. Again, I don't have a test Wi-Fi set up, so I have to show my actual Wi-Fi information. Okay. There. Clever. All right, so now if you notice, I swapped these two around. So now I've got the correct name on the correct sensor. And then if you see under logger, I've removed the level. So it'll just do the default error logging. If I wanted to, I could have it stated on debug or different levels, but I chose to take that off of there. Okay, so I hit save and then I hit install. And we're going to try to do the wireless one again. So it's going to go ahead and compile it. Well, yeah, I'll bring that up. Well, I try. That's why I try to do 8 o'clock, because I know it still works for people in outside the United States. When we do, actually, so at work, my day job, I work electronics manufacturing, the IT director, and a lot of times this is the time when I have phone calls with my counterparts in Asia, so the Philippines and Taiwan. I'm actually able to, so that's when I usually work at night a lot of times, because that's when I'm talking to my guys over there. So I figured this time of day would be good because I can catch people in most parts of the world. Unfortunately, I guess European and UK folks can't really join for this one, but maybe I'll do a morning one of these days, an early morning, to try to catch the rest of them. So thanks for joining. All right, so it's telling me it didn't find one sensor because I have it unplugged. Okay. All right, so everything looks good there. Let's go ahead and close out of that. Let's go back to configuration, integrations, ESP Home, Garage Freezer, 2 entities. So that one's showing 80, and that one's showing 81. So which is pretty normal because they're both at the same spot right now. So of course we can cheat and go to integrations, freezer, devices, click on that, go ahead and add this to Loveless. And I don't have a garage one, but I think I put it on my outside. And of course, you could apply graphs to these if you wanted to. This is where I keep the garage on the first floor. So there are these two that I can click on and access the different temperatures. If I wanted to, I could click on the 3 dots. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a little stressful. Jobs. My systems administrator just quit, so I'm the only level 2 tech person right now, covering. I think we calculated today. We have a grand total of 72 servers, 500 users, and I think 370 PCs all throughout the world in every time zone almost. So it's an interesting job, but yeah. But yeah, I'm an American as well. But yeah, it's just weird having. Actually, we have a big global summit next week at work, and we're going to have people flying in from UK, all the United States, but our Asian counterparts couldn't join us because of COVID restrictions and things like that. So we're going to do our whole presentation and then do it again at night for the folks in Asia. So that'll be interesting. All right. So I'm going to quickly add, if I can remember how to do this. custom card, the MiniGraph card. So I've shown this in a few of my videos. I really like the MiniGraph card. It allows you to do a lot of really intricate stuff. It's what I use for my stocks and my YouTube views and subs count. So I'm just gonna, again, I'm gonna cheat and grab the code so I don't have to do it all over again. So go to outside, add card. I think I explained on the last stream, my setup is I have each floor has a tab. So basement for a second, outside, and then I've got like a system tab. So I really don't have a good setup on mine. It's really complicated. I've been doing this for like 5 years now, so I don't have a great, it's not clean. So I was talking to somebody in the Discord today, and I was telling him, he asked if I have any advice on dashboards, and I'm like, I'm not the best person to ask for that. So if you have some suggestions, it's a good one. Oh, and the Apex charts cards are another good one, but MiniGraph's a little bit easier to set up in this case. Thank you. Yeah, it's challenging, but it's work and it keeps me busy and I like to work, so that's always good. Is anybody, and since we've got a few people here right now, and we're kind of towards the end of the project section, so we've got plenty of time for questions. Anybody working on any fun projects over this holiday weekend? I know here in the States, obviously, it's Thanksgiving weekend, or long Thanksgiving break. I'm taking tomorrow off, and then I've got the Thanksgiving break off from work. So is anybody working on any fun projects for this holiday break? I've got some cool videos coming up in the next couple of weeks. I don't know if I've got anything in there. Oh, I'll grab some out of the box and show you guys the next week's video, what it's going to be about. This week I've got the video mostly recorded, but we're going to kind of revisit the old RASPad here and show you how to set this up as an all-in-one Home Assistant machine. If it's something you want to get started with, kind of a fun setup. And then if you're interested in one of these, they are doing a 20% off sale for Black Friday. So version one, but I'll show you what I'm working on for the next couple weeks. Yeah. So anyway, we'll pop over here and I'm just gonna save that because I don't know the array. Let's grab the deep freeze sensor. So this is a custom MiniGraph card. We're going to put the deep freeze temperature. Obviously, unit is degrees Fahrenheit, but I don't really have the degree symbol because I don't have a keypad. And then change this to, I think, whoa, the keyboard's backwards. Okay, that's not working. Everything I type, it goes backwards. That's fine. Okay. I don't know what's happening here. Okay. Anyway, you can see how to do that, where you just put those conditions in there. Okay. Fine. It's just the hard way. I'll bring this up here. So auto entries, is that the using the love list where it automatically generates your entities list? Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. That's one of the things like I hate about I think it's Tuya, the Tuya integration. It gives you like the serial number of the device instead of the actual name for it. I really like the new version of MQTT, Zigbee to MQTT. Its web interface is really nice because you can click and then you can go through and say, hey, this device is now called something, and then it changes everything, including the Home Assistant entities. So that's pretty cool. You'll have to, yeah. So are you referring to the where it automatically creates the back end stuff, or is that what you're the list of them there? By the way, if you haven't seen the new in the new version, I really like this new feature of the you can select the icon. I don't know why it's taken this long, but whoever came up with this was genius, where you don't have to actually, because I'm constantly just tabbing over to Google, typing in MDI icons, going out searching for it, and coming in there. I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen that yet. Huh. Well, we'll take a look at that here in a second. That's cool. I didn't realize there is that. But yeah, you can do this and then do MDI. Oh, that's cool. There you go. Temperature Fahrenheit. Here. Paste. Save. Oh, and that's not working because I unplugged it. How's my tape? I'm just gonna cheat and use some double-sided sticky tape I've got sitting here on my desk. Oh, electrical tape. Even better. There. Hopefully that stays. There it goes. Okay. So there you go. And then I like this one because you can customize the different lengths and stuff. So you could put 2 different ones if I wanted to. I could go in here and add the garage ambient temperature. It's not going to start typing backwards again. So now it's got the 2 of them. It'll overlay them, obviously, in the real world, unless it's the middle of the winter. Those aren't going to overlay very well, but I like it because you can do this and look across each of the additional sensors and tell which ones they are and overlay them really well. So let's go take a look at that plugin. It's a good suggestion. Okay. I mean, I'm just so impressed with the home system community, how much stuff people come up with on a day-to-day basis. Anything you possibly could want. It's just great that the people just develop these things and they're bored. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so you can do it based on filters. So instead of having to rely on putting them in, you can just filter things out, which is cool because actually I have a blueprint that I use that somebody developed that does low temperature, or low battery. This one right here, low battery level detection, and this is one of the Home Assistant blueprints. So there's no extra code or anything. You just go to the blueprints, install it, and what it does is daily sends me a message on Telegram that tells me all the sensors that have low battery. You can set the threshold, and you can set all these things. So if you look here at this example right here, it's telling me all of my sensors that are low. So you set a threshold, and anything below a certain amount that it's got a battery sensor will automatically report that to you. Obviously, if you've got, I have certain things, like certain devices that don't properly report battery level, but a lot of these things do. I know are low on battery right now, so I need to go swap them out. So it's a good reminder. So that's the low battery level detection and notification for all battery sensors blueprint. So that's one if you're interested in that sort of things. That's a good one to look into. Which, if you haven't played with blueprints, they're getting better and better every single week. If you have weird devices, so for example, I've got this IKEA Tragify, whatever, 5-button, and I've kind of coded a hack together automation to be able to tell, because these are really finicky. Because if you press any of the buttons, it's going to show toggle, and then it shows the button you press. So like if you hold this button down and then let it go, it's going to say toggle hold, which is really annoying because it's really hard to write an automation to do that because it's like the last state. So people have written these custom blueprints that you can just go through and say, hey, if I hit this button, do this. If I hit this button, do this. And it makes it really, really super simple to set up. So click create automation. So I can select which device, and this one, sorry. So if you have an odd device like this one, I mean, these are, you can see this expands more than what I could do easily. The right button, double press, short press, long press, and you release it, that sort of thing. I mean, it's madness, all the different things you can do with these different sensors. And I couldn't do this naturally because of the coding would just take me forever. So use the blueprints, especially with devices, or have a weird thing. And KDOT, I did see your question. I'll get to that here in 1 second. There's a great one here called Yet Another Motion Automation. And this looks kind of overwhelming, but if you read through it, it lets you take a motion sensor and set different scenes at different times of the day. So, like for example, my bathroom, not here, this is my office, but in my bedroom, the master bath light has a motion sensor and a Z-Wave switch. So you walk in there during the day, it comes on at 80%. You walk in there at night, it comes on at 2%. And so it allows you to set those type of things. Well, at this time of day, I think this sensor turned on this scene. So there's some really cool and super powerful ones here in Home Assistant in the blueprints. It's really awesome. All right, Kate, I'll your question here. That is a great question. And somebody asked me this a couple weeks ago. So do I think Home Assistant is reliable enough for the residential customer? I still would say it's not Home Assistant I'm concerned about. I would say it's the protocols Home Assistant uses. Z-Wave is pretty damn reliable. Zigbee, less so. Wi-Fi, I would not do Wi-Fi, I would not do Bluetooth. If you have a tech-savvy person, so actually, one of our sub-companies, one of our subsidiaries that I work for, actually is an RC car part manufacturer. So OEM, they build motors, motor controllers for RC cars. So I'm obviously run their IT there, but I also take care of a lot of their marketing for video stuff. I actually did a YouTube trailer for one of the new products, and the owner or the head of the guy there, he's asking me the same thing. He's like, "Hey, why don't you come out? Why don't you start a business and help me?" And I said, "The problem's going to be is you're going to be calling me every week when there's an update, when your systems go offline because you're not going to know what to do." So if that person is willing to learn, then that would work. I'd say that's fine. But the problem really isn't Home Assistant. I mean, if you were to go grab whenever it comes out in availability, you grab a Home Assistant Amber or a Home Assistant Blue, and a device that's properly configured with SSD. Home Assistant is going to be stable, especially because Home Assistant doesn't require you to update it periodically. You can disable. I would disable updates on there, let it hum along, and then set up something highly resilient like Z-Wave, especially for a customer. Because with customers, you're going to get questions, and unless you want to be answering questions, 2:30 in the morning, I can't turn my damn lights off. What's going on here? That's would be a big concern of mine. So I would say Home Assistant is pretty close to being ready for prime time, but the protocols might not be. So that would be, that's why things like, if you ever have dealt with an installation of Crestron, so my background, I've worked with Crestron before. I'm not an installer, but on the customer side, they set up a dedicated network entirely for the Crestron stuff, the CrestNet. You cannot put anything on that. That's entirely for them. If you plug something into it, it avoids the warranty, and they won't let you work on it because they want it to be 100% reliable, and that's how they make sure it's 100% reliable. Control4 is the same way. It has an isolated network that they control. That's why I say Z-Wave is probably the closest to that, because I mean, all my light switches in my house and my fans, all the critical stuff are all Z-Wave because its protocol was tested. It used to be kind of a closed source system, so it was a little bit more tried and true. You don't have people like Xiaomi that put a weird protocol into place and screw things up. So their standards and they're enforced. Actually, funny story, I did meet with the Z-Wave Alliance. I was at a security show for my day job, and I actually got to meet with the Z-Wave Alliance. So they actually had a pretty cool program set up for people to, if you were a developer building a piece of hardware, you could apply for a grant, and actually knew the group that got the grant that year for a product. So if you want to develop a Z-Wave product, they used to be able to give you a grant, and you got free admission to the consortium and all this other stuff. So that was kind of cool. So long answer to a short question. Does that answer your question, K-Dot? You think that what region are you? U.S. based? Menus. Look at that. So I'm actually going to, on that same subject, I'm going to start deploying, I think, um, virtual VM images of Home Assistant to my locations for things like TV controls. So if you have smart TVs that you use in your setup for, say, display signage and stuff like that, it would be a good opportunity to use it for centralized controlling. For me, for server room stuff. Okay, excellent. I'm glad I answered your question. If like server room control, door access, a lot of that stuff you can supplement it even in an office environment by using a Home Assistant instance. So I'm going to deploy it out to a couple of my locations that are a little bit more technologically savvy, and then deploy it at those locations. Deploy it out in those locations and be able to pull information from different devices. So things that you don't normally see. I have an entire setup where I monitor, every server, every switch, every critical piece of infrastructure. Those don't have that capability of talking to smart IoT devices. Only devices that communicate over things like SNMP, supplemental mail protocol, messaging protocol, that sort of thing. So it does definitely go hand in hand in even a corporate environment, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Oops, that's not the right one. Yeah, that's exactly. But I mean, you do have to think about Control4 and those guys. You know, they have a good package, and they set those things up. They're pretty reliable. The problem is when you get into non-network devices, you can't remote into their Home Assistant instance to fix it. Right? You can for certain things, but if a door sensor goes offline, you have to roll a truck out and actually go fix that for them. So that's a pain. But yeah, I mean, if you can find a power user, um, you know, that's actually why I started this channel, was because I was talking to some of the guys at work, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I've been getting into home systems. I've been doing this kind of stuff, but I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to do that." And those are the kind of guys that they're going to probably bang their head against the wall until they fix it. So if you were going to deploy out for somebody and say, I'm going to give you this package, and you get X number of hours of support a month, and that's it, and they're okay and they sign off on that, then that would probably work out well. But yeah, I don't think so. But I don't really. I mean, I think Home Assistant is pretty user friendly now. Especially if somebody does the initial deployment for them, gets the Z-Wave radio set up, the Zigbee radio set up. Yeah. So those when you get those sort of things, initial things set up, that's the hardest part. I think if once you get into Home Assistant and you get your head wrapped around the whole infrastructure and the entities versus all this other stuff, and then you can play with the integrations page, and you get to sit down in front of the integrations page and say, okay, pick what integration you want to use. It's much easier. I mean, have you seen the Google Home? I mean, like, if we say that the average consumer can't do Home Assistant, then how is anybody supposed to figure out Google Home? Like, I'm not sure if on the Alexa side, if you're an Alexa person, I don't have Alexa, but like if I'm trying to add a new device to Google, oops, sorry, that's the wrong thing. Device, I can never navigate. I mean, like I do this stuff professionally, and I can't navigate these freaking menus for Google Home. It's so annoying. Yeah, like you work. I mean, if you were to like look at all of these freaking devices. Like it doesn't automatically look. I'm not even out of the A's yet. It's ridiculous. So I mean, your Home Assistant is so much easier than that to even set up. Home Assistant has things like auto discovery. Hey, I want to go out and find this device for you. I've discovered these things on your network. You've plugged in the serial port, which I mean, so I think users are a little bit more savvy than we think they are, as far as they setting them up. Fixing things, yeah, I don't think so. Oops, that's weird. Afcom? Sorry, I hope I don't mispronounce that. Yeah, yeah, I think that's. I mean, I think helping somebody scope would be another thing. So if you're a person that wants to start a business and it's like, okay, we come in and we help you scope the project. We help you install the product. We train you on how to do these common things, but then support's on your don't do support. That'd work out well as well too. I think, especially with I've been talking to some builders in my area about that as well. Hey, what about setting up a smart home package for your house? Because already when you buy most of these houses, they come pre-wired for alarm. And an alarm is a good example, right? An alarm system. Most people don't fix their own alarm system. They call the truck. The company comes out. So, you know, that would be maybe a good business model. Say, hey, we set it up. You get this much service, and anything outside that service, we charge you to come out here and fix it for you. So, and now that everybody from Honeywell to whoever, SimpliSafe, all those guys are doing wireless today anyway. So nobody's doing half a chin. Okay, good. I tried. I swear. You know, I'm mostly used to dealing with Taiwanese and Filipino names, and so I've gotten a little better at some of those. But yeah, it's I think almost half a key, but that's cool. But yeah, I do think I was telling who was I talking to about this the other day? Somebody was asking me about Thread, the new Google consortium for things. Do we think that we're um, getting close to a you know a setup here for like where it's gonna smart homes gonna become mainstream? I think we are. I mean, like I if I had a portable camera, I would stick it out the window and show you all of my neighbors that have Christmas lights now, right? More and more of my neighbors are now showing up with RGB addressable Christmas lights. I've got a neighbor over here that's got like a light show going, and they're not super tech savvy, but they're buying those things. I went to Costco yesterday. You know, Costco's got their own line of smart plugs and stuff now. I mean, this was $15 for these three, and they're the Fight ones, but they're running the Tuya. They're a Tuya white label, so they work with the Tuya integration. I'm pretty sure. So these are becoming more accessible. So yeah, I really think more of a key machine. Gotcha. um, so I think that type of mindset is great, and I think if you're looking to start a business, now is the time to do it, and you haven't lost the time because people are accustomed to it, right? Everybody's got a Google, everybody's got Alexa, everybody buys these things. That's why I tell people, go buy yourself, a couple of smart plugs and see how cool it is to be able to turn on and off a lamp from across the room. That's the first taste. Then you're going to get addicted. And then you jump into Home Assistant and you start doing all these sort of things, and you automate everything in the world, and it becomes, there goes my wallet kind of stuff. So I'd say, right now it's mostly enthusiasts and people who are highly tech savvy, but that bar is dropping every week and every year, and it's getting easier and easier for people. Things are going to be cheaper, to put stuff out smart. My neighbors across the street have smart bulbs. They have no want to be smart home at all, but they have smart bulbs so they can change the color of lights for the seasons. That sort of thing. So, mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't. So I've got I have a MyQ, and I also have backup sensors on the doors, and I don't really have any automations except for it turns on the front lights when my garage door opens when I get home. But I know a lot of people have when their phone gets close to their house, it opens up the garage door. But I haven't gotten to that stage yet because I've had too many false. I have like 4 levels of presence detection, and still I'm like, I can't really get a. I can always find an exception when I get home, but yeah, it's really it's amazing what you can do these days with home automation in general. That's why one of the things I've really tried to stick to is anytime somebody sends me a product to test, I'm like, the first question I ask is, can I put it in Home Assistant? Because if it's a standalone product that doesn't justify being standalone, then I don't really want to play with it because I wouldn't want to use it. Okay, let me grab this. Hold on one second. Let me. As I kick over an entire box of stuff, let me go in there. So this is what's coming up on a future video. So these are the, if you haven't played with these are the SwitchBot bots, which so the little, I call them button pushers, right? They reached out to me and asked if I want to test things. Most people right now are testing the curtain pusher from there, but I don't have curtains in this house. So I said, hey, can you send me some of these to play with them? And I got this obviously extremely nerdy project that I'm working on to press the damn button on my coffee maker. And I've printed a bunch. Oh, yeah, here we go. So my coffee maker is one of those self-grinding coffee makers, and it's got a curved metal front on it, so there's not a good place for me to stick the button. So I've been 3D printing curve samples and trying to figure out the right curvature. And so I've got this elaborate little contraption to be able to stick it securely to the side of the coffee maker. So that's here in a couple weeks, not this week, but next week's video, where I'm going to take you through the setup of these and their hub, which I usually am not a fan of their hub, but their hub is really cool. It does infrared, so it actually works as a remote. So I've got it set up in my living room. I can control my soundbar, I can control my TV, I can control my fan. So just a little preview of some of the cool stuff coming up here in the next few weeks. So your garage door opener is a Tuya-based one. Have you swapped over to the new version 2 Tuya integration? I did that a few weeks ago, and it works pretty well for my Tuya stuff. A little disappointed about the local integration. Didn't get set up, or they kind of rescinded on that right now. But and if you do have Tuya products and they're older, pre-2020, you can try to use the Tasmota convert to convert them to like ESP Home. The cool thing about that is you can basically, it mimics a updater, so you can flash a ESP. You can flash one of those devices, and without having to crack it open and do a JTAG. So you can update those devices and turn them into an ESP Home device, for example. But like I said, these smart plugs, and I've got a fan and a couple of the smart plugs that I use. Actually, the smart plug on this 3D printer, all are using the Tuya version 2 integration now, which is a bit of a pain. The setup sucks because you have to set up an API key. Even I got stuck with it for a couple hours. But once you get this version 2 finished, it's much better. The version 1 is much more reliable, supports a lot more things. So, let me know if you're having trouble with the Tuya version 2 integration. I was talking to them about making a video, but they didn't. They kind of fell silent on it. Yeah. Is it old enough to do a 2-year convert on it? That's the problem I'm finding now is they've apparently patched that vulnerability, which I get. It's not something you don't want somebody running around and unplugging and plugging your devices, and then all of a sudden they belong to somebody else's cloud. So. Sorry, I'm looking for my water bottle. Yeah. You don't even want to see what this side of the office looks like right now. It's all, I've got junk everywhere. I've got camera gimbals and all kinds of other stuff just sitting around here. That's how little time I get through the day to fix things. So. And another preview of things to come. I'm a big organization nerd, not cleanliness organization, but like tasks and stuff. So I picked up one of these. Um, it's called a Supernote. It's like Remarkable, but a different brand. So I'm going to be doing a review of one of these in a few weeks. I really like digital note taking. So I'm left-handed, so I hate writing with pens. So I love the digital stuff. Oh wow! So you're gonna actually tear out the chipset. That's cool. The I know at one point in time I was looking at gutting my MyQ because it wasn't working, but they finally figured out the integration with Home Assistant. So I hate that. I hate when companies make it difficult for you to do stuff. No, no, it's not a Rocketbook. It's actually it's a Kindle. It's a Kindle with a touchscreen. So if you look, here I'll switch to the down camera. It'll be easier to see. So if you look, it's actually it's got a screen. So basically, it's similar to a Kindle. It's got an e-ink display, so super low energy. But you can write on it with a pen, and I mean they're really neat. I've got a coworker that's also really into this sort of thing, and he's Remarkable too. So I'm going to borrow his Remarkable and do a side by side comparison. But I think this is a much better product. Actually, it's running a fork of Android on it, and so they actually have the Kindle book app on here as well. But yeah, full note taking in the pen. Yeah, this I'm telling you this much. If you're a nerd, again, these are not cheap, but because freaking e-ink displays are. You think with Kindle making a billion of them, maybe cheaper, but my God, e-ink displays are expensive. Um, but this pen, I mean, it has an actual like nib on it, so it reminds me of a sharp. I forget what they call them, like a really sharp tip, and the screen feels wonderful. So I've only had this for a couple of days. It just came in yesterday actually, and but the writing on this is excellent. I think it's really cool. Um, the system and the neat thing about this particular company is their developers are extremely like their support people. I mean, 2 or 3 times yesterday I was going back and forth with them. Had questions. They're constantly doing stuff for the community. So I think it's a really cool product. Like I said, I'll probably do a review here probably mid December on the product once I get used to it and get a little more. So I'll have to look at that chip swapping. I mean, it's interesting to see how to do that because I know, like I said, I work in electronics manufacturing. A lot of times you'll just see, right? You'd be surprised how many products these days are being made with the Raspberry Pi. What's it called? The one that's got without all the headers and stuff on it. The compute module. A lot of products using the compute module now. A lot of products using ESP8266 or ESP32s in their actual like going on their store shelf products. It's cheap, it's easy, it's quick for people to make manufacturing decisions on. So it's really we're kind of in a weird time now where you can make smart products for next to nothing. We're kind of getting into the future in that sense. So you can build a smart product and not be a company that's doing smart products. Buy to you a software package, you throw an ESP8266 in there, and then bam, you got a smart product. So I know I've been rambling on for, if you missed the project, it was at the beginning, probably the first 45 minutes going through there. I was smart enough and actually recorded this session this time. So I might, sometime in the next few weeks, do a cut down version of just the project. Just if you ever wanted to go back and not watch the whole live stream to go through, um, that will be available hopefully in a couple weeks when I get time to make edits. So, you know, I've got probably another 15 minutes or so. If you've got any questions, comments, videos you want to see, ideas, suggestions, lay them on me. Let me know. And so I'll just kind of hang on here for a few more minutes. See my notebooks here. Oh, and it syncs to the cloud too. So that's another cool thing. You hit one button if you're on Wi-Fi, it'll sync it to the cloud. They've got a companion app and a web version, so you can just pull the images off and stick them where you want them. I'm gonna start playing with the Google Vision API that lets you do handwriting recognition with just on paper, things like that. So that's a future project. Like I said, if you've watched my videos on API, Notion, I have some really complicated systems, but that's the one stuff I like to do. So, I use my Home Assistant to trigger in Notion API automations to create automatic ones. I even built a bot, a Telegram bot that I could send a message to and would add it to my daily bullet journal entry in Notion. So, super nerdy stuff. Let's check and see how the that stayed pretty stable. This must have come unstuck again. The deep freeze temperature. So yeah, I was super disappointed. I spent like a week setting up this new lighting system. So I've got LEDs around both my monitors, and then I've got WLED installed on an ESP8266 on the back, and I can control the lights on the bottom. I control lights on the outside edge. It's working great. I love it. It's awesome. And the power supply died. The power supply I bought off Amazon just randomly died. So, oh, that sucks. Now I don't have a power supply big enough to run those lights. So, it's something I'll fix in the future. But I had it set up for this exact setup so you could see the top down. But alas. Let me see. Is there anything else cool that I wanted to show? One thing I will note if you watch the video on the ESP Presence that I've been using, I know that developer, he's been doing a lot of new stuff with it. You can now use the same ESP device, and you can install sensors on it now. So if you did play with that project before, like me, and you just got these ESP32s laying around, or you have one set up in a room somewhere, you can actually hook up different sensor packages to these and also use them for presence. So if you deploy them around your house, there's now I think he's got microwave sensors on there too now. So using microwave sensors for presence, there's a lot of cool stuff. So check out the ESP Presence project if you haven't already. I mean, I did a whole video on how to set it up. But if you haven't checked it out in a while, he's added new features to the project that allows you to do different things like where he talks about the sensors now. Maybe it's in the sorry, just it's on the GitHub. We need to probably do a follow-up video with the, yeah, so he's got like the lux sensors on here now. So you can do light level sensing, you can do, you use the Room Assistant app on the iPhone now. So if you have an iPhone and you track it, you can use the Room Assistant app to activate a beacon. I can't for the life of me remember where he describes those sensors now. It's on here. Anyway, I think it supports motion sensors now, lux, temperature, passive infrared, and a few others. So anyway, if you've used that project in the past, check it out again. There's a lot of new stuff. He's constantly releasing new features, and the neat thing about it is when he updates the firmware in GitHub, your devices automatically pull down the latest and greatest, so you don't even need to update anything; it does it all automatically. So that's kind of a neat feature he added in there. There were some surprising changes, like the LEDs now flash when the device is close, and I wasn't expecting that. So I sitting next to my bed, woke up one day and I'm like, I had this flashing LED in my eye. It was a little bit of a surprise. All right. So all for any questions or projects you guys are working on. I don't want to meander too much longer. It's getting kind of late here. So thank you all for joining us, and it was nice to talk to everybody who have different things going on. It's pretty awesome. I think if you guys don't already know, you can jump into the Discord server. I have a Discord set up here, and that's really meant to just sort of be a community. It's not just specifically related to the videos. If you do have questions, I've got categories on the left here, different announcements. So if you have a question outside of one of these ones and you want to jump in, feel free to jump into the Discord. The link is on every video and also on my website. So if you want to join us on the Discord, feel free to. Keep an eye out this week for a video. I'm hopefully going to be dropping a video on Thursday. I've got it recorded, and I just have to do the long process of editing it, which is always the biggest pain. So thank you all again for your time. Have a great rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are in the world. And I'll see you later. Have a good one.